And tonight we're going to be doing something we haven't done in a very, very long time. Tonight we're going to be dealing with your questions. So I looked at the top questions that I received over the past year, really, and some of these were actually written out. All right, thank you. Awesome. You hear me? Great. That's fine. So, and you're going to gain from this, and I encourage you, even if you don't relate to a particular question, ask yourself, are there parts of it that will resonate? Because what I found was that marriages are very similar. So, although one person's challenges might be different than another, but if you have a severe challenge in your marriage, whether it's intimacy or communication or separation or an affair or a lack of trust, there's going to be certain similarities. And if you're willing to go deep, you're going to learn a lot, even if somebody's question is not exactly like your situation. And in fact, our Facebook group is designed for men who want to go deep, who really want to study this, who really want to understand what's not going right in a marriage, what are the possible mistakes that you might be making, and then what you can do to fix it. And we're going to cover a lot of that today. So let's get into it. Question number one. All right, I'm going to read it. We have little to no more intimacy than a hand on the shoulder while sleeping. Lack of sex and rejection at a rate of 90%, 95% or higher. This is a real thing. A guy actually submitted this. Essentially, I feel that I've been progressively shut out over the 8+ years of our marriage. Okay. So let's talk about this a little bit. I'm sure this guy's not the only one who's going through intimacy difficulties or lack of intimacy, whether it's a complete rejection or it's just cold. Like, how many of you guys are experiencing that the intimacy is just cold, that it's she may be doing it as a chore or out of guilt or out of a sense of responsibility or even a religious duty, but her heart is not in the intimate experience. Or even if she's into it for herself, but there's an emotional disconnect after you guys are together. So let's talk about it. And with your permission, I'm going to be blunt because I found that the most effective way to really help guys heal their marriage, to jumpstart the process, is to say the truth the way it is. Important principle you have to know, I've never seen a marriage that has significant intimate problems that does not have any other problems. In other words, if your marriage is suffering from a intimate difficulty where you can connect physically, sexually, I'm not talking about a mechanical problem or like a medical issue. I'm talking about where there's an emotional disconnect which is creating a sexual disconnect. I've never seen it just be a sexual problem. It's always a deeper tension, arguments, miscommunication, misunderstanding that have nothing to do with the bedroom. And of course, when a couple is feeling disconnected and they're feeling misunderstood or disrespected, then it's going to spill over into the bedroom naturally. So the way I want to encourage you to look at it like this: intimacy really is sort of like it's the dashboard of what's going on in the marriage. You know what I mean? Does it make sense? Like it's sort of like telling you, you can look at your intimacy and see a reflection of the marriage. It's extremely rare to have disconnected marriage, a marriage where the couple do not enjoy each other's company and do not have a good emotional connection and still have an okay sex life. It's extremely rare. It's not healthy, and there are a lot of negative downsides to that. My point over here is that it's important when you're having intimacy difficulty or you're concerned about the intimacy challenges is to ask yourself, what are the deeper issues? And there's so many resources over here in the Facebook group, and I'll give you one soon towards the end of our training over here, to ask yourself, are there things deeper? And more importantly, listen carefully, this is a big one. Ask yourself, are you willing to go deeper? All right? For the guys watching it right now, are you willing to go deeper? Are you willing to explore? Or are you just willing to know, okay, I want to solve my intimacy difficulty? Because if you just want to solve the intimacy problem, I don't even know if it could be done, but even if it could be done, that's not what I do. But if you want to go deeper to understand what has created that, then you're in the right place. And that's the first thing I'd encourage the guy asking this question is, to recognize there's a lot of research that shows that very, very happy couples don't give so much weight to their sex life. They may say, yes, the sex is great, intimacy is great, but they won't give it more than 10 or 15% credit. Why? Because very happy couples enjoy a lot of parts of their connection. They enjoy many parts of their relationship. They enjoy doing shopping together. They enjoy watching TV. They enjoy raising their kids. They enjoy just going for a walk or having a good conversation or going for a movie. They enjoy going on vacation. There's so many other parts of the relationship. Naturally, one of the great things they enjoy is a great intimacy together. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments if you're getting this, if this makes sense, if this resonates. Now, conversely, very interesting, is that couples who are not happy, particularly men who are very frustrated, will complain about the intimacy. And they'll blame most of the problems on the intimacy, when really the intimacy is a symptom. It's a symptom of a deeper issue. And when I mean a deeper issue, what are deeper issues, right? Guys asking, David, what's a deeper issue? So I'll give you a couple examples, but it could vary from one marriage to another. But a couple of basic ideas that I've seen apply in many marriages is, a basic issue is, if you do not know how to please your wife, and you're only measuring yourself by, did I do everything she said? Did I do everything she wants? If you're stuck in the pattern of, I have to do everything she says in order for her to be happy, because she'll only be happy if I do everything she says, that's actually a fundamental problem. Because women can say 100 things, and maybe 3 to 5% of what they say is the most important, and the other 95% is, I'm not saying it's not important, but it's not going to get you the results you want. In other words, you could do everything your wife wants. You could do everything on her list. It still will not make her happy. It's just a fact for women. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. We may cover it today, okay? Because there are some other questions over here. But the first thing is to ask yourself, do I have this fundamental issue that I have to keep guessing? If you have to keep guessing what makes her happy, then you're going to have intimate difficulties. Another thing is she stuck with the wrong picture of you in her head? Does she have the wrong idea of you? Maybe it was something that might have been true, but it's no longer true. Does she think that you're never going to change? Is she stuck with the idea that you're manipulating her, or that you're selfish, or that you're controlling? So those are fundamental issues. The sex works itself out. I've seen it over and over again. The intimacy really is the iceberg. It's the cherry on top. It's the thing that you see. It's not the most important thing. There's a 90% of difficulty, of challenges, which I call marriage cancer, under the surface of the relationship. And when you fix that, when you work on that, and you identify it, and there are a lot of resources over here to get you started with the process, and then you really get somewhere. But if you just focus on intimacy, you're gonna, I hate to say, stay stuck. So that answers question number 1. Question number 2: how many of you are with me? Does this make sense? Does it resonate? Or if you may not like it though, right? It may be, you may look at it like, 1 second, this is too much for me. I just want to have an intimate connection. I don't want to do the hard work. I don't want to do fundamentals. Yeah, that's your right. But that's what we do over here in this Facebook group. And when I work with guys directly one-on-one with my students and clients, that's the work we do. And the results are tremendous, because when you fix the fundamentals of a marriage, you automatically fix the symptoms. So let's get into it. Question number 2. I don't know where we went wrong. By the way, this is a good one. I thought things were getting better. We were working on the marriage and talking about it regularly, and then she picked up and left 2 weeks ago. It doesn't make sense to me, and I feel lost and confused. How many of you relate to that? You may see this in the recording. I'm curious, how many of you guys relate to this? Okay? So this is a very important and interesting one to break down. Number one of the dangers over here in this particular question is that the guy is rating his success based on the feedback he's getting from his wife. In order to truly have a long-term happy relationship, there are skills that you need on your own. regardless of what she says. You have to have the ability to look at yourself from your own interaction with her, from your own communication to her, and be able to say, that was effective, that was not effective. I know this works, this doesn't work. This was a really good thing when I said it. Because if you don't you want as a client, because addiction, and I'm not saying a one-time use is a problem. One-time use is fine. I'm talking about addiction. Addiction is where you become dependent on that chemical agent or behavior to make you feel good and to help you feel okay. It really messes up your ability to process the skills that I teach. It really, really does. The best thing you can do is to get into a good, solid 12-step program. And I know that a lot of guys in our Facebook group that struggle with this. Okay? Because my team regularly speaks with guys over here in messenger conversations or emails. So addiction is a pretty, I wouldn't say the majority of the guys over here, but I would say there's maybe about 10 or 15% of our group may struggle with that. And the reason why you cannot move forward with any marriage transformation strategy is because the key to the marriage transformation strategy that I use, is changing the picture in your wife's head. Your wife is stuck with a certain picture of you. If you have marriage cancer, if you've been stuck for a while, then she has a certain picture of you in her head. And if you want to recapture her heart, you have to change the picture. The problem with addiction is it keeps on reinforcing the old picture. Every time you relapse, it's not just a relapse. It reminds her of all the times you binged, drugged, or used. And it literally takes her back in time so far that in a certain way you're starting from ground zero each time. I'm not saying it to discourage you or to demoralize you. I'm just trying to make maybe I'm saying it a little bit extreme to give you a little bit of context. But you really need a solid 12-step program, whether it's AA or there are other programs that are specific for whatever addiction are. There's programs for just about anything. But you need a solid program, and you got to work the steps. You got to get a sponsor. This Facebook group is not really for you at this point. It may inspire you, like I said, but it's not going to give you the help you need in your marriage. It's simply not going to work. It's not going to work because this is a fundamental issue. It screws around with any skill that I teach. And they are high level skills. So that's the truth. Like, you do have to be sober 90 days before you reach out for help. The lack of consistency that addiction brings screws around with everything. And in a woman's brain, consistency is very important. It's very, very important. More important than you can possibly imagine as a man. So that's the blunt truth. Number 5. To be honest, I used to lie a lot to her, quite a bit, about anything, but because I wanted to avoid conflict. That's a big one, by the way. How many of you guys lie to your wives because you want to avoid conflict? You're afraid of her reaction. You're not sure how to handle or navigate the conversation. So you lie about something. I used to do that. Now anytime something happens, she still thinks I'm lying. And she can't know for sure I'm telling the truth. We're separated at the moment, but are still communicating. So the key over here is to really build the skill of understanding. What is it about what you're saying or doing right now which is keeping her stuck? In other words, even if you stopped lying, there's typically about 3% of what the guy is doing, assuming you stopped lying, right? If you're still lying, I can't help you. But let's say you stopped lying, right? And she still thinks you're lying. What happens is there are certain things about your behavior, certain things you're saying or doing, which is reminding her of the past. And the key over here is to get good at it. And that's one of the things that I help guys with, is to sort of dial in, how do I get good at picking up that 3% that I'm saying or doing, which is keeping her stuck in the past. That's an important piece over here. Because, again, I'm assuming that you stopped lying, right? Because otherwise, I can't help you if you're still lying. But women, here's a very important piece, very important thing, and you're virtually not going to hear it out there because very few people understand this or realize it, the importance of it. Women over time, in a marriage which has had a lot of challenges, over time your wife develops a picture of you in her head. At some point it may have been true, but it goes way past the point where it's true, and listen carefully. Your wife, I'm telling you something golden over here. What I'm telling you now is better than some of the information you're going to get in other people's paid programs, okay? This is a tremendous nugget of gold. Your wife is not talking to you. Again, I'm going to say it again. Your wife is not talking to you. If you have marriage cancer, if you feel stuck, if you're doing her freaking list and you're not getting anywhere, if you really love her but she doesn't feel it and trust it, it's because she's talking to a memory of you. Do you guys get that? She's talking to a memory of you. She is not talking to you. I'm going to say it again. She's not talking to you. She's talking to a memory of you. And until you understand exactly which memory she's talking to, you will not be able to bust out and make her feel loved. I'm giving you a powerful, important, fundamental principle. So therefore, you have to get good at dialing in that picture that she has in her head. And it is a process. It's a process, all right? If you want to explore it, I'll show you soon how to do it. But first, you got to first understand how powerful it is, because when a woman doesn't look at communication the way us men, we men look at communication like a logical thing. We talk. Did I make sense? If I made sense, then she should have understood it. Well, if you're married to a wife for any period of time, if you think making sense means she's going to understand you, then you haven't been around the block too long, all right? To put it simply, women operate on subconscious communication. Subconscious communication means she has a picture of you in her head, then she has a feeling based on the picture, then she makes an opinion. All right, sometimes the opinion comes first and then the feeling, so you'll hear me talk about it 2 different ways, but it doesn't matter. But logic is the last thing a woman uses in communication. It's literally the last thing. It may be the first thing you use, it's the last thing she uses, which is why she may be inconsistent, which is why she may say things that don't make sense to you, because she's stuck in the past. It's very important to understand that. Number 6. Oh boy, we're going a bit long today. I have no contact with my wife, but I want to reconcile. What do I do? I'm going to say something crazy. Some of you guys are going to get it. Some of you guys won't. If you're here for a while, you'll get it. If you're new, you may have to watch a couple of videos till you really get this. Ironically, you are in the best situation. I hate to say it. In a certain way. In a certain way. In a certain way, you're not. But in a certain way, you are. And here's what I mean. You could have somebody who's still living at home with his wife. And in theory, that is an easier marriage to fix while you're still home. Here's the challenge. The guy still thinks that he has to take everything his wife says seriously in order to turn around his marriage. He feels that she knows everything he needs to do, and therefore he'll ask her, what do I need to do? And he'll follow her list, even though she may change her mind a bunch of times and she may not appreciate what he does. He still believes that by helping her around the house or doing what she wants, he's somehow going to make his marriage better. It's a trap. I went through this for years. All my clients went through this for years. It's a very normal thing to go through this as a guy until you realize it's not true. The guy who has no contact with his wife doesn't have a choice. He gets to wake up quicker. It may be more painful. It may take more time to heal the marriage. Absolutely. And you can check out the interviews we had with some men in our Facebook group with a guy there was a restraining order. And see how quickly that turned around. All right, check it out in the interview section. My point is, though, in a certain way, there's a certain positive element in being in a very stressed marriage, because you're actually much more ready to make a change. Because you realize, 1 second, these are skills I got to learn by myself. I cannot talk to her. I cannot interact with her. I cannot communicate with her. I cannot wait until I get her opinions. I have to work on this by myself. And there are ways. If you go through a bunch of videos in this Facebook group, you'll see the outline of what this is all about. So ironically, you're in a better situation than the other guy. Who was it? Question number 2. The guy who asked, I thought things were getting better. We were working on the marriage, and she picked up and left 2 weeks ago. It doesn't make sense to me. You're actually in a better situation because you understand you cannot rate how well you're doing based on her opinions, because you don't have a choice. So ironically, you're in a better situation because you're not gonna get stuck in that trap. The trap of, I gotta involve my wife in the process. I must ask her opinion. Because A, she believes she wants you to figure out. Number 2, she believes she already invested her heart in it. And since she invested her heart in it, she will not put her full heart into it. And it's impossible to turn around a marriage if your wife doesn't put her full heart into it, if you're doing it with her. And that's what you got to do by yourself. Okay? Of course you want her to be involved in the process. But to jumpstart the process, you first have to break through and make that connection on your own. Because if you wait for her, she will not, whatever she'll do will be superficial. Because she already believes she put many years into the marriage. She believes you should figure it out. She's trapped in her own feelings. She's not sure what she's chasing. Feelings are completely confusing. They're just like they're confusing to you as a guy, they're confusing to her. So she may think, hey, if you did this, I'll be happy. But then you do this, so you're not happy. She may say, hey, if we had a trial separation, I'll be fine. Then you do trial separation, she's still not fine. If you did A, B, and C, then there's a chance. And you do that, and all she decides is that she actually feels more comfortable on her own. Like there's no rhyme or reason. So the point of here is that if you need to recreate that connection with her, you're going to have to do it on your own. And there are ways to do it. But the first way is to know what doesn't work. Final question. It is extremely hard to communicate with my wife. Anytime I tell her how I feel about something, she takes it as something else she isn't doing right. It's like I can't start any kind of conversation with her without it ending in a fight. And today she told me she was packing a bag and leaving. Oh gosh, again. I did get her to agree to come home and give me another chance to show her I can change. I really need some help. I am so lost and confused. This usually doesn't end well. Again, because the changes that you're making are based on the feedback she's giving. When you're saying, I can change, I've heard so many guys say, I can change. What they're really meaning, and I hate to say it, but it's the truth. What they really mean is, I mean well, I want to do good, I just have no clue what to do good, but I'm going to try to do good, and I hope that it works for you, Jessica. I hope it works for you, Leah. I hope you appreciate my effort, Rachel. Then you have, when you change in a general way, you just become a better person and work on yourself, whether you're using religion or whether you're just, working on your health or meditating, or you're just being more grateful. What happens is your wife may see you working on yourself, but the personal transformation has nothing to do with the marriage transformation. The changes you're making yourself are not reaching her heart, because the changes you have to be very specific skills that are directly related to capturing her heart, directly related to specifically how to change the picture she has of you in her head, how to change the opinion that she has of you, which is stuck in the wrong place, how to switch it, how to identify it, and what changes that you have to make. So when you go in this cycle that the guy describes, usually ends up in her wanting to leave shortly, in another week or 2 or 3. It's a matter of time. And every time she decides to leave, the wall around her heart gets higher and thicker and colder. I call it the ice wall at some point. It becomes like an ice wall where she doesn't even seem like she's upset. She's cold. So the key over here is you got to remember, she's not going to give you helpful information. She's going to give you surface information. She's going to say, well, if you did this and this and this and this, and if you listen and if you help more around the house and you better provider, you spent more time, yada yada, or you did the 5 love languages, then we would be better. And the problem is that stuff is all surface. It doesn't go to the heart of what is the 3% that keeps her stuck in her head. So, for example, let's say you want to use the 5 love languages. It sounds good in theory, right? But if you give her words of appreciation because she says, yeah, my language is words of appreciation, and you give her words of appreciation, the problem is, if she has the wrong opinion of you stuck in her head, deep down she doesn't want the words of appreciation from you. So even though it may be her love language, let's say it's true, okay? Let's say it's true, just for the purpose of explaining this topic. Or let's say she likes physical touch. She may want physical touch, but she may not want it from you. If she has the wrong opinion of you stuck in her head, then she doesn't want it from you. This is a very important piece to understand. The key really comes down to taking 100% responsibility, but I call it strategic responsibility. Like, how to take responsibility. You have to be willing to go deep. You have to be willing to unlock fundamentals. You have to be willing to stop focusing on the damn symptoms. Sex is a symptom. Communication is a symptom. Fears are a symptom. The whole divorce process is a symptom. And I'm not saying that can't be fixed. I'm just saying the attitude you have to have is that you're willing to unlock and understand where is the marriage cancer in your marriage. What are the things you're doing now that are feeding it, and how to reverse it. I would love to hear your takeaways, what you guys gained from this video most, and if you have questions about it, like if it's not clear, if there's something about it. But again, if you're really new, before you could write questions, but you'll gain a lot more by just watching some of, we have a bunch of free videos over here. Just scroll down and check some of the other videos. There's some really good videos. Today, honestly, was quite advanced because we were going specifically into questions that were submitted. All right, my friends, God bless you all. I hope you found the clarity, or at least your first step that you're looking for. And what you got to keep in mind is that when it comes to marriage transformation, it's not one magic moment. It may look like it, like when your wife looks at you in your eyes and you see that love and you see that understanding, you see that connection. It may look like it happened in a moment, but it doesn't really happen in a moment. It's an accumulation of doing a lot of things correctly over a period of time. And then and some people get those magic moments pretty quickly, but it still requires a lot of time to learn how to maintain that and not go back to the pain, not to go back to that emotional disconnect and the frustration.